Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to take a minute to go over some simple things that you can do to be prepared for whatever situations might come up. You know, in the past year and a half, we've seen some pretty wild stuff happen that we probably would have never imagined to happen. Pandemics and riots and gasoline shortages, you know, due to cyber attacks and all of that, areas in the country, in the nation, where there were power outages. But are we really prepared for these things? And I know I kind of harp on being prepared, but that's what being a prepper is all about. Yes, this is Danette's Kitchen. I do like to cook. I do like to prepare food, but I like to be prepared in the event of an emergency. And for some people, this may be kind of like a replay of some things that they've heard me talk about in previous videos, but it's really, really important, and that's why I'm repeating myself in the hopes that it will be of help or some good use to someone out there. Number one, transportation. How are you getting around? If you are someone that normally drives everywhere you go, realize that times like now, with the gasoline shortage, that may make it not as accessible an option as it is in other times, especially if you live over on the East Coast where they're having more problems with getting gasoline. I'm in the Midwest, but you know what I did? I decided because I was starting to have car problems. I was just like constantly having car problems, and I didn't want to be car poor. Um, Living close to the resources that I need is very helpful for me, number one. Number two, I bought an electric bike. It's a pedal assist bike. So I can plug it up, charge it, and ride it for up to 24 miles, the particular brand that I have. I have the Nacto. I got it on Amazon. But even if the electricity runs out on the bike, I can pedal, but I could just always just pedal regularly anyway because it's good to have that extra exercise. But at the same time, I can pedal, come to a place where there's a hill or something where on my old bike, I'd be ready to get off and walk it up the hill and hit the button, vroom vroom, and let it carry me on up the hill, which makes it very convenient. And not all e-bikes are thousands of dollars, yet there's a wide range of prices. You have to find what works for you, what fits in your budget if you're interested in that sort of thing. And if it's not your sort of thing, then don't worry about it. But this is something that I did for myself. Number two, food. We have the gasoline shortage. So what happens if the trucks that transport the food that we've been so used to being conveniently provided for us in the grocery stores, what if the trucks aren't able to get through because they are not able to get the gas to be able to transport the food so that the grocery stores can have the food so that you'll be able to have something to eat? What are you going to do then? Have you been preparing? Have you been putting back a little bit of extra? For people that receive public assistance, they may also receive different, there's lots of different subsidies and things going on right now. We know about the stimulus packages that have been dispersed across the nation. And that extra cash is nice, but it really makes the value of our dollar get even less if you're in America. It makes the value of the dollar even less. And the dollar is really more like a promissory note. But I won't get into all that in fiat currency in this video. But if you want to hear about it, put a link in the comment section below. And I will happily talk about that and talk about precious metals and other forms of currency. But as I was saying, if the trucks don't have gas and they're not able to carry the food to the markets and the grocery stores, what are you going to do? Have you prepared? Some people might say, I'll go to the farmer's market. Great if it's in your neighborhood and they've been growing their own food. You know, in previous years I did outdoor gardening, but where I moved to now, is the soil's been tested and it turns out that it's not really healthy and it's not safe for anyone to eat anything that's planted in the soil around where my home is. So what I will do is some above ground gardening this year with larger pots that I can have above ground so I can at least grow some herbs and tomatoes and different things and continue to do the dehydrating that I have done in previous videos. And if you're interested in that, please let me know in the comment section below so I can do more of the dehydrating and give you guys more examples of that. So, trucks can't get to the store. I've already stored up. Hopefully other people are storing up. I'm not saying that everyone has to be a dehydrator like me, but because of my own past situations and experiences, moving to a community and having a storm come and straight line winds to knock a tree into the power line, knocking out the power for many blocks around me, I had no food. All the power was out for over a week. The food that I had in the refrigerator all went bad. What did I have in the cupboard? I had a few canned goods. I didn't have a lot. I was more comfortable with being extra convenient and just kind of sashaying to the store every day or every other day just to get what I felt like I needed. But that situation taught me a lesson about being prepared for situations like that. So now, you know, I have dried beans. You know, dried beans are pretty cheap. You can get them in the grocery store for a couple bucks, $1 or $2. Dried beans, dried rice. Some people get the NAPS, which is Nutritional Assistance Program for Seniors. It's a food commodity box that has dried beans and dried rice and things like that in there. And if you do and you're just like, I'm not particularly crazy about all that dried stuff, you don't have to be crazy about that dried stuff. But I do think it is good to put a little bit back. Save a little bit. You know, some people see it and they're just like, all I want is the grape juice. Y'all can have the rest of this. But those boxes contain powdered milk. You may not be a fan of it, but it's workable. And those are some of the things that we do in these videos, is preparing things with some of the stuff that you can find in those packages. The dried beans, like I said, you may not be crazy about them, but it's okay to save 1 or 2 packs of dried beans. They're cheap, yes. They save for a long time because they're dry already. You know, if you decide you want to save a little bit of that, but you don't want everything just like piled up in the cupboard till it starts falling down in front of your face. If you're a coffee drinker, if you buy coffee in the can, after you've drank the coffee, used up the can and all the coffee that was in the can, you can wash out the inside of the can, let it completely dry, do the same thing for the lid. Then you can take those packages of dried beans, put them in the can. You can get more than one in there. You can get 3 in there. I have like 2.5 in there right now. Put your lid back on that can. Now this can go up in the cupboard for a rainy day. And believe me, rainy days do come when you least expect it. Didn't the pandemic come when we least expected it? The riots last year that happened right here in my hometown in Minneapolis came when we least expected it. And when the riots hit last year, everything happened right around me. I mean, literally. I could look out my window and see the destruction and see everything going on. Stores being burned down, gas stations being burned down, hardware stores, libraries, schools, Montessori schools. Can you believe it? So there was nowhere close in my proximity for me to go get groceries. Well, first of all, I had to bug out for 3 days. I grabbed my bag, which is always good to have a to go bag already. Have 1 or 2 days worth of clothes in there. Um, throw any prescription medication you might need in there. If you have a pet, have a little package of cat food, dog food, whatever for whatever pet you have, and a couple of little extra dishes for your pet. Toss them in there. Throw that pet in the carrier, and get out of Dodge. And that's what I had to do for 3 days. And when I came back, Popeyes was gone. There was no Popeyes chicken. Daycare centers were burnt down. My bank was burnt down. Grocery stores were burnt down. Target was broken into. But when I came into my home, I could go into my cupboards and I still had my my preps. So these old coffee cans do have some good use. Another thing that you could do, especially if you're not into dealing with the beans and stuff and you just want to order something that's either freeze dried or dehydrated, you could try, you know, Emergency Essentials, Provident Pantry, Thrive Life, Mountain House, one of those places. But and even though I appreciate having this is how I started off the whole prep deal with this and my dried beans, of course. But some of those different groups sell things that are more expensive. And yes, it's good to be prepared, but if it's going to be like something that's freeze dried or dehydrated, I have a dehydrator now. My mother bought me a dehydrator many years ago because she know I really enjoy either canning food or dehydrating. That dehydrator was the best gift that I ever got. So I use it, slice my vegetables really thin, or my fruit, if I'm doing fruit, put it on there, set it, have it plugged up. It takes like a day and a half with the dehydrator, but it's all good. When it's done, I can peel everything off, put them in the packages, and then store them in containers like this. But of course, like I said, if you buy Emergency Essentials or one of those products, or Thrive Life or one of those products, your freeze dried or dehydrated foods, which these sweet potatoes are freeze dried, they will last you 20 years in that package as long as it's not open. Once it's open, the timeline starts on it though. But it does work out for the good. You just want to make sure that you cook it thoroughly um, to get to the right consistency that you like. And how do you know it's the right consistency? You try that food out. You boil it down really good and you try it for yourself and see, does it have the right bite for you? Does it taste good? Add your salt and pepper, your butter or whatever, and you can keep going with that. There's also something called Butter G. G-H-E-E. Butter G. It comes in a jar, and it is the fat solids off the butter. Um, it doesn't need to be refrigerated. You can keep it in the cupboard. I'm out of my Butter G right now, but I will be buying some more again soon because that's a good thing to happen. Because if the power goes out, which some people don't put their butter in the refrigerator anyway, but it can kind of get like mush. But the Butter G is in a glass container, so it keeps everything in form and it keeps it nicely, and you don't have to worry about, gee, should I put it in a refrigerator? Another thing, powdered milk. There's lots of different kinds. If you get the food commodity box, you might get it in a bag. You go to different grocery stores like Cub or Food Lion or whatever. You might see it in a box that looks almost like a white cereal box, but it's powdered milk. This one is dry whole milk. It's a Nestle product. It's in the can. Intentionally got the can because I use powdered milk all the time. It doesn't seem to bother me the same as the liquid milk. And then I can use this for baking. I can use this for a variety of things. But you just want to be mindful of making sure the water is at the proper temperature, depending on which type of powdered milk that you have. With this one, your water should be like at room temperature. I'll get another one real quick. This one is from the Wise Company. It came in one of my prepper pantry containers that I purchased from the Wise Company, which had like several different meals that are kind of a high caloric meal. So if the power grid goes out or whatever and there's no access to food, you eat one of those meals and it takes you the whole day. You don't want to eat two or three. One would take you the whole day. And so this is whey milk alternative. And it's 14 servings in this little container. It works just as well. And this one can be at room temperature or cold water. So it's important to know what temperature the water should be whenever you're preparing these. The Milkmaid, which comes in a package similar to this in those NAPS boxes, nutritional assistance boxes, that one should be done with cold water. If you don't mix it with cold water, then the powdered milk will start to clump together. So it's important to try your stuff out and don't just save it forever waiting for something to happen. You want to know that what you have is useful and that you know how to work with it and how to prepare food with it, how to use it. Another thing, those trucks can't go to the store. That means no toilet paper. And I know a lot of people have gotten the bidet attachment and connected it to their toilets within the past year because there were so many people that were stockpiling toilet paper and actually hoarding it till it was all the way up to the ceiling. And I've literally seen some people that had toilet paper all the way up to the ceiling. I just buy the more economical brands that I know has more sheets per roll, and knowing how much toilet paper that I need to use for myself, it's easy enough to be able to buy enough to carry me through for quite a while. But there are times when you might be in the community and you need to go to the restroom and you're in a stall and you realize that there's no toilet paper there and other people are saying that they can't spare a square. That's when I would use the Wisey wipes. And I know some people don't like the Wisey wipes, but the Wisey wipes really aren't intended for everyday use. You want to use them every day? Fine, but it's not really what they were intended for. But one of these little tablets, you add a drop of liquid, literally a drop, and it starts to expand, and then you pick, and it opens up to a large sheet the size of a moist towelette that can be used for someone's face or as that toilet paper substitute, especially if you're camping or in a situation where there's not a square to spare. Another thing that I like to do with the Wisey wipes, you know, this past year everyone's been cleaning everything a bit more than usual, if you know what I mean. So, and there for a while there was no Clorox containers because people were buying them all up, assuming like just like they were with the toilet paper. So I started buying these containers from Target, which are 75% alcohol wipes. They're disinfecting and sanitizing wipes. It's not something that you want to touch and then put your hands in your eyes or immediately go to try to cook something on the stove because alcohol is flammable. But these were great to use. They're great for cleaning mirrors. They're great for wiping down the refrigerator or the stove or sticky handprints or things like that. And when they're all gone, when it's all used up, you can add a little bit of soap or detergent or a little bit of alcohol with water or whatever you desire. Throw in a few Wisey wipes, put the lid on, shake it up so that the moisture hits all those wipes and they will expand and they will become cleaning wipes that can be used in this same container so that this container isn't necessarily wasted. Now, if the power goes out, there are some options if you've prepared and you're kind of ready for that. If you have a flashlight at home, make sure that your batteries are working or that you at least have some backup batteries if you need that. I have a flashlight that doesn't need batteries. So this is my little deal that I bought at a thrift store actually. It's a hand crank flashlight. But nope, not everybody's going to want to do the hand crank thing. But for those that want to do something like that or are comfortable with doing something like that, I got this for $3 at a thrift store. It was also for sale at Radio Shack, but why would I got lucky and it was at the thrift store. But there are different brands of this, different varieties of this available online on Amazon. This is not only a flashlight, it has an emergency beacon, it has a radio on here. So it does a variety of things. It even has a space somewhere, here it is, on the side where you can plug up your phone and charge up your phone the hand crank way if you want to. So $3, that was a good $3 for me personally. But I also have regular flashlights with the batteries and everything. Another hand crank thing that I got from the thrift store again, it charges up by cranking it. It's a radio, it's a regular radio and a weather radio. So $3 at the thrift store. They do sell items like this online. If you check it out on Amazon, do your homework, you might be able to find something like that if you're interested in something like that. If you want a weather band radio that's not a hand crank one, I'm sure you can find those very easily on Amazon. And as I've mentioned before, having some backup power supply system is really nice. And yes, mine is pretty small, but this is all I need. This is the Dr. Prepare, and I got this on Amazon. This has lights. So if the power goes out, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this because I can grab this and I can turn on the lights first, and it has the strobing lights too. So I can use this to find other things that I need. But then it also has the different outlets so that I can plug in the USB for the computer, for my phone. I can plug it up to a solar panel. I can plug my CPAP machine up to this, and it will run for 7 hours. Yeah, this little Dr. Prepare has some power in it. It will run for 7 hours. So it's good for people that need life support, hookup overnight. It's just the right size for me. That's just a few things. We see that the world is changing every day. Every day it seems like something is happening. Like I said, the gas shortages. There's still trouble in the Gaza. There's the pandemic has really kind of exploded in India, and there's just a lot of changes everywhere. In some states, I've been told that it's difficult to find chicken. There was a time during the pandemic where milk production was down because the farmers weren't able to do what they would normally do with all the milk that they got, and so a lot of milk had to be thrown away. Just why I like having my backup and being prepared. It's nice to have fresh stuff too, but it's really nice to be prepared because then when trouble comes, you're ready. Do you know your neighbors? I'm not saying you got to hang out with everybody all the time, especially now. People are more standoffish, and I totally get it because I'm there with you. Um, but it's good to know who lives around you. It's good to be aware of your surroundings and your environment and how things regularly operate. Water. Water is a principal thing that everybody needs. Everybody. And people who use a variety of different water filtration systems. Um, some people will just buy the jugs of water in the grocery store or bring their own jug and have the machine fill it with water at a lower cost. But if the power went out, the stations that normally would process the water that comes out of our spigot, they would stop. So it's important to think about that and have some kind of plan in mind or have just a spare jug of water or something just in case you find that you need that. Those are just some little tidbits and thoughts that I had for today. I'll be back on later with some food news because there's some stuff that's going to blow your mind. So I look forward to talking to you again real soon.